Twister on Tuesday, Chapter 4, Reading Lesson. It was warm and dry inside the schoolhouse. Several oil lamps lit the darkness. "Class, meet Annie and Jack," the young teacher said. "What class?" thought Jack. "There are only 3 kids." On one bench sat a small boy and girl. The boy looked about Annie's age. The girl looked a little younger. On another bench sat a tall boy. He was tough-looking. "Welcome to our first day of school," said the young teacher. "Today's your very first day?" said Annie. "Yes, and our first day in this dugout. The family who lived here left for California a week ago," said Miss Neely. Jack and Annie peered around the room. The walls were made of dirt. The floor was made of wood. It was covered by a worn rug. Miss Neely's desk was made from a barrel. A small coal stove was near their desk. A crate held a water jug, chalk, and 2 small blackboards. "It's a nice school," Annie said politely. "Thank you. We're very grateful for it," said Miss Neely. "And where do you live?" "Well, we actually," Jack started. Then he stopped. He wasn't sure what to say. "Actually, we don't live around here," Annie said. "We're passing through." "You must be from the wagon train I saw this morning," Miss Neely said. Annie nodded. Jack smiled. "Good work, Annie," he thought. "We can only stay a little while," he said. "How exciting for you," said Miss Neely. "Heading west on a wagon train. Where are you going?" "California," Annie said. "California, that's wonderful, isn't it, class?" Miss Neely said to the others. "Yes, ma'am," said the 2 younger children. The older boy barely nodded. "Have you ever been to school before?" Miss Neely asked Annie. "Yes, ma'am," Annie said. We both know how to read and write. Jack's one of the best readers you'll ever meet." "My, isn't that wonderful, class?" said Miss Neely. "Yes, ma'am," said the younger children. The older boy gave Jack a scowl. "Not exactly the best," Jack said modestly. "I love to read," said Miss Neely. "I'll read any book I can get my hands on." "Me too," said Jack. "Then perhaps you'd like to start off our first reading lesson of the school year," said Miss Neely. "Sure," said Jack. "Sit with Jeb then," said Miss Neely. "And Annie, you sit with Kate and her brother Will." Will and Kate quickly made room for Annie on their bench, but Jeb didn't move over for Jack, not even an inch. Jack barely had room to sit. He took a deep breath and sat on the end of the bench. Miss Neely handed Jack a book. "This is our reader, our only reader," she said. "It's called the McGuffey Reader. Please read the first 2 lines of the poem on page 50. "Oh, sure, ma'am," said Jack. He turned to page 50. He pushed his glasses into place. Then he read aloud, "Twinkle, twinkle, little star, how I wonder what you are." "Very good," said Miss Neely. "Now pass the reader to Jeb." Jack handed the book to Jeb. "Jeb, please read the next 2 lines," said Miss Neely. The older boy cleared his throat and stared at the page. "Maybe Jeb can't read," Will said in a kind voice to Miss Neely. Jeb's face got red. "Shut up, Will," he muttered. "Oh," said Miss Neely. She looked confused. Jack felt sorry for Jeb. He wanted to give him some help. Barely moving his lips, Jack whispered, "Up above the world so high, like a diamond." Jeb turned on Jack with an angry look. "I don't need your help," he said. "Now, Jeb, don't get mad," said Miss Neely. "And Jack, you shouldn't give people the answers." "I'm sorry," said Jack. Miss Neely sighed and pulled out her pocket watch. She was starting to look tired. "Why don't you all go outside and have your noon meal?" she said. "I'll stay in and prepare for our next lesson." Miss Neely opened the door of the sod hut. Annie, Kate, and Will bounced up from their seats and started cheerfully out of the schoolroom. Jack turned to Jeb. "Hey, sorry for what happened," Jack said. Jeb just glared at him and didn't say anything. "Come on, Jack," Annie called outside the hut. "Kate wants us to eat with them." Jack hurried out the door. He didn't look back at Jeb.